Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I want to spend a little bit of time and talk about a potential first-time homebuyer grant that was proposed last week. Now, we've talked in the past about Biden's $15,000 potential tax credit for first-time homebuyers. This is a different legislation that is potentially being proposed. This is currently a draft that's on the table. It has to go before Congress and get passed. My guess is there'll be some modifications to it, but I do want to spend a little bit of time today and talk about it because this is something that could, make the housing market even more competitive because, they're talking about proposing a $25,000 grant to first-time homebuyers. In today's video, we're going to take a look at a summary of that legislation, that proposed bill, the draft, if you will, go over some of the ins and outs because there's a lot in there that you need to be aware of if you're somebody that thinks that you want to take advantage of this. Maybe you're a first-time home buyer, you've been waiting on the sidelines, waiting to hear if, this first-time home buyer grant would be available. Initially, as I mentioned, it was proposed by Biden as a tax credit. This is going to be money that's given to you at closing, and we're going to go over a couple of different ways that you can use it, but there is some repercussions by not staying in the property a certain period of time, which we're going to talk about. There's also income restrictions. And, we're going to talk about what does it mean to be a first-time home buyer? Could you have owned a home before? Could your parents have owned a home? Parents? How are they involved in this whole thing? Well, let's take a minute and pull it up. We'll talk about it, and then we'll talk about some of the challenges of something like this actually coming to fruition in the current housing market. So I want to take a minute here and pull up the legislation that we're talking about here. So the draft is called the Downpayment Toward Equity Act of 2021. Now, again, this is just a draft bill. It actually hasn't been proposed as a bill yet. It's still, at that point, once it is a bill, it has to go to Congress. It has to get passed by the House of Representatives, the Senate, at which point then it would go before the president and get signed. So, we are still a ways away from this actually becoming anything. But I did want to take a little bit of time and talk about it because maybe if you're somebody that is, a first-time home buyer or somebody that falls into this category, this could be, the potential to get you into a house. It could give you what you need to, to start that journey of home buying. But let's talk about it here. So, again, it was proposed last week on the 14th. I think that was last Wednesday, if I remember correctly. I'm not going to go over all of this here. I will put a link to the bill or to the summary in the description below if you want to take a look at it. But I'm going to go over the parts that I think are most important. I did take time to highlight this stuff because I want to read it and I want to help you understand it. So the use of the funds in administration. So funds may be used solely to assist eligible home buyers to purchase homes, either through down payment assistance, closing cost assistance, or payments to reduce the interest rate on a mortgage. So this money would be given to you and you could use it as down payment assistance. You could use it to pay closing costs. You could potentially use it to buy down the interest rate. The funds. So what are eligible recipients? Who qualifies for this? So funds under this act can be provided for or to first-time home buyers who meet income requirements and qualify as what the act terms first-generation home buyers. First-time home buyers are those who have not owned a home in the prior 3 years. Regarding income, home buyers must have an income at or below 120% of area median income for either the area where the home being purchased is located or the area where the home buyer's place of residence is located. For home buyers purchasing homes in high-cost areas, the income limit is increased to 180% of the AMI, the area median income. The Act's definition of first-generation home buyer is any individual whose parents or guardians never owned their own home during the home buyer's lifetime or previously owned a home during the home buyer's lifetime but lost to a foreclosure, short sale, or deed in lieu of foreclosure and do not currently own a home. Any individual who lived in foster care also qualifies as a first-generation home buyer. So there's a lot to take in right there. I'm going to put this down and pull it back up in just a minute. So let's talk about first area median income. So you're either 120% of the area median income, you have to be less than that, or if you're in a high cost area like here in Southern California, 180%. So I looked up the area median income for Orange County, California. In 2019, it was like $36,000. So if you multiply that 180%, that puts you up 60 something thousand. I don't remember the number right off the top of my head. Let's just say 65,000. So as an individual making less than $65,000, you could be eligible. The caveat is if you make less than $65,000, chances are you can't buy a house in Southern California, in Orange County, where I'm located, just because of where prices have accelerated to. Now, typically speaking, what they allow with this area median income is that's for an individual. If you have a wife, if you have kids, each person of the family, that income is typically adjusted. So, that 65 or so thousand that I mentioned for one person may jump to 80,000 for a couple, or, 85,000 for one child, or whatever. So at the moment, that's not described in there exactly if that will be adjusted. But, in order for this bill to be effective, it's going to have to take into account the number of members in a family, because otherwise, one person buying a property here in Southern California is not going to get very far. I mean, this isn't going to make any impact in our housing market, or any first-time home buyers aren't going to be able to take advantage of that because of those income limits. Now, the second part is having a parent who hasn't owned a home. So if your parent owns a home, you're automatically disqualified from this. But if they owned a home and they lost it, say during the last housing crisis, they short sold or foreclosed on it or what have you, then you would be eligible. So, if you're well-to-do, or your parents are well-to-do and they own property or what have you, you're not going to be able to use this. But if not, then you can take advantage. But let's take a minute here and pull up the rest of it and just look at a couple of different things. So here are the numbers that they're talking about. So home buyers may receive up to $20,000 in assistance or $25,000 in assistance if the home buyer qualifies as a socially and economically disadvantaged individual. What does that mean? The Act defines socially disadvantaged individuals as those who have been subjected to racial or ethnic prejudice or cultural bias because of their identity as a member of a group without regard to their individual qualities. An economically disadvantaged individual is one who meets the bill's income requirements. Any individual identifying as Black, Hispanic, Asian American, Native American, or any combination thereof will be presumed to meet this definition. Any individual who does not identify as such will have to prove by a preponderance of evidence that they are socially disadvantaged. So how you go about proving that? Beyond me. No idea. Program funds can be used to assist in the purchase of any home bought with a mortgage that is eligible for purchase by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, USDA. So right there, your main mortgages. Doesn't say anything about VA in here. Just FHA, USDA, Fannie, and Freddie. If that changes, I will let you know. Counseling requirements. There are some counseling requirements here. I'm not going to go over those because they're going to vary by state. Repayment of assistance. This is important because, if you're planning on buying a property, there are some things that you need to take into account. Home buyers receiving assistance under this act would be required to pay back all assistance they received if they stop occupying their home less than a year after purchase. The amount the home buyer would be required to pay back would decrease 20% for each year they live in the home, and there would be no penalty after 5 years. The penalty would be waived should the home buyer sell the home and realize a gain on the sale less than the amount they received to repay. So again, a couple things to take into account here. If you own the property less than 5 years, every year that you own the home, it's decreased by 20%. So if you got $25,000 each year, $5,000 less in which you would have to repay. But if you sell the home and you realize a gain less than $25,000, then there would be no repayment. So just some things to keep in mind if you're thinking about buying a property and maybe selling it and trying to profit, or maybe you're not sure how long you're going to be in the property, but you want to take advantage of this. Just understand that there could be some repayment options. Now, Here's the important thing that we need to consider. Anything like this, to get more first-time home buyers in a market that is already considered hot, if you will, high buyer demand, low supply, not a lot of property to choose from, which is the market that we're in right now, across the United States in most major markets. Anything like this to add to that fire is going to create more buyer demand. More buyer demand, low supply leads to higher property values. So if something like this does come to fruition, you have to understand that chances are, property values will likely increase with any of this coming to the market. So, maybe by getting $25,000 or $20,000, depending on your situation, it may give you an opportunity to buy. But chances are property values are going to increase between now and when that time this bill is passed, if it is passed at all. And when it does pass, chances are you're going to see demand come to the market and property values continue to accelerate. So with that said, I have a very hard time believing that this thing is going to make it through all the way to the president's desk without being part of a larger plan. Now, if it was part of this infrastructure bill that they're trying to pass, or part of something that was larger, then I think it's got a better opportunity to pass, because it's encompassed by other things that they're trying to get passed, and people will overlook certain things to get what they want on both sides. Now, if this is a bill by itself, I have a hard time believing that you've got two groups are going to come together and be able to pass this thing just because of where the market goes. Now, if we did see a pullback in the market at all, if we started seeing foreclosures come to the market, if we started to see evictions expire and home values come down because of that, then maybe they could use this to further keep the market moving forward at that time. But if the market is like it is right now, when this thing actually comes before the House and the Senate, I don't see it passing. But that's just me being a real estate agent, and one that thinks any additional stimulus to the market would just create further issues for those actually trying to buy a home. But as I get more information on this, I'll continue to update you. As many of you know, my channel is all about real estate, helping buyers, helping sellers just navigate the real estate process. So do me a favor, if you're new to me, hit that subscribe button. I'll continue to update you on things like this to help you further educate yourself with regards to home buying. And if you have questions for me, do me a favor, leave them in the comments below. I appreciate your time as always. I appreciate you taking the time to watch. Hope you have a great day. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.